We are at the Cathedral and John Connon High School in Mumbai, one of the finest schools in the country, and we are here to talk to Miss Meera Isaacs, a principal who herself is an institution, a person that I deeply admire and respect, and it's our fortune, and it's amazing to be able to speak to her and learn from her wisdom. It's always a pleasure, Meera ma'am, talking to you. It's like talking to someone that I respect and adore a lot. And this conversation is more to raise issues about education with people who are interested in it. And to get insights from you, I think this 41-year-old journey for you.
42.
42. This is,
Yes.
I think, if we can kind of crystallize this journey of yours, it would be amazing for all of us to learn from it. So that's the whole objective of this conversation. So let me start by asking you, what does it take to keep a school relevant for 150 years?
First of all, Sudhir, I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming and for saying all these lovely, kind and flattering things about me. What does it take? I think it really takes a lot of ownership of the place, I think. I think that is the most important thing. If you care about something strongly enough and you care with a deep sense of commitment and passion, I think then everything else is worth the journey. And I think I've been very, very lucky in being in a school of this nature, because I came in as a rookie teacher. And since my husband was in the Navy, I thought that I would move on maybe 2 years, 3 years. I had no idea that I was going to be fossilized over here, but that's what's happened. And right through the journey, I have believed in this place. I believed in our children, because I think we have some of the most superb kids that you can see over here. And since I've taught for 20 years. I was teaching, and then after that, I think took over from there, playing nursemaid maybe, or I don't know about nursemaid, or maybe monster nursemaid to the children of those youngsters whom I taught. So but I think the main thing is your commitment to what you are doing. If you're committed, I think everything works out well. There are frustrations, of course, but on the fine analysis, it's worth the effort.
I mean, for you would have seen almost generations of students coming, but still you've managed to kind of be on top of it all. So what did it take for you to kind of remodel yourself again and again? Like, the commitment provides the foundation.
Yes.
It's the foundational kind of base on which you build the ability to connect to different sets of students. So how have you managed to do that connection? Because I know you connect brilliantly, and I've seen that, the way you do it.
One has to be adaptable, because there's been a huge sea change almost from the time I got into teaching to now. And there's constant learning on the job. Also, it is your team, the people who are with you and who are really the wind beneath your wings, if one may say that. I have a superb team, and I know that I can rely on them, because I think all of us more or less share the same philosophy of what education should be and what we strive to keep it. The ability to take change in your stride, and at the same time not to forget about your roots, your grounding, your traditions, which I think are very, very important. I think if you're able to balance the two, you're able to give the best that you can to the children. And of course, one very important thing is, of course, the child as the focus and the epicenter of it all.
Yeah, a lot of schools talk about child-centered education, but the people who I know practice it, they don't talk so much, but they practice it. So
Yes.
what is in the practice of child-centered education that you can kind of zero in, saying that, okay, this is it, this is not it?
I haven't really thought it through, but I think it comes fairly naturally when they're talking about what is best for the child. When you're talking about child-centered, is what is best for the child. Is it going to help the child grow as a human being? And I think the human being is very important, all right? It's not just academics, it's not just sports, it's not just extracurriculars and dramatics and elocution, all that kind of thing. It is the core of the child, which I think is so important. And I think that is what we try to keep in mind. It's a difficult task, and with all the new media presence and the
The attack almost.
it is really like an attack. It is, and the way people look at life, it's all changed hugely. It's all about your status in society. It's all about your wealth in society. Ridiculous things like where you live and how many bedrooms you may have. I mean, it's come down to that ridiculous level.
Yeah.
I suppose you need all these things to make life comfortable, but who are you in the final analysis? I think, and that is where we try to keep our children.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you help them stay grounded. So my question is, what are the practices that have succeeded in grounding your children? I mean, they are being buffeted left, right and center by pressures that are outside of them.
Yes, yes.
So what are the practices that you found that are helping you help them stay grounded?
I think one thing is that we always make it a point to tell the children to appreciate each other, to respect not only each other but themselves. Because if you respect yourself, you can respect other people. The other is very important in the growing up of a child, right? It's not only me, myself, especially nowadays with small nuclear families. You do find that children tend to be a little more selfish. That is something that we try to encourage them to look beyond themselves. And one very important aspect of our school is doing community work, community service. Right from our 3-year-olds, every single section of the school does a huge amount of community service, because our children, we are so privileged in so many ways. And there are so many children in our country, in our city, why country, just in our surrounds, who have nothing really. So this business of sharing with others, keeping that in mind, is something that I have found very useful. And I find our children are so much better because of that. I'll just give you one small example. Somehow with the change in, well, I suppose economics stature that most people have in this upwardly mobile people, you do find that there is a lot of emphasis on, say, a birthday party, for example, for a child. So, and you spend absolutely crazily. I've had parents, and I must say I was really quite thrilled, where the mother said that no, what we're going to do is, and we have a lot of like-minded parents also, who said, no, we don't want any gifts for our child. What we want is, she sent out a list of foot sizes, all right, and she told them that just get this as a gift. Ordinary shoes, just get these as a gift, new shoes, all right. And those shoes were then all given to children who did not have shoes. Now, that was a beautiful thing, and that we just needed that one example of this mother and her son, and we find it slowly spreading, where people are, instead of going through the crassness of just getting and getting and getting, you are giving rather than getting.
I heard you emphasize a lot on the emotional development of children.
Yes.
And is there some reason why you're emphasizing it so much, that that is somehow central to the development of the human being, as you said?
Yes, I think, again, going by what we see around us in this day and age, when I was growing up, maybe not when you, because I'm there was no TV, there was no social media, there was nothing. You relied upon yourself and your friends to amuse yourselves, okay?
Absolutely.
You used your imagination, and your parents really didn't, at least I know my mother had no time to bother about,
How to take care of my
absolutely. I mean, you just jolly well got on and did what you had to do.
Correct.
And you were given very, very strong family values.
Correct.
And a very strong idea of what was right and what was wrong.
And what was considered
And yes,
okay,
and what was acceptable.
Yeah.
And you went by that.
Yeah.
All right. So it was really very parent-centric, mother-centric. I'm talking about my mother, because I grew up without, my father passed away when I was very small. And I know my mother had a rough time. I know that she had to not just earn a living, but look after the 3 of us. And it was a tough thing, but she did a I think she did a pretty good job. At that particular time, maybe I didn't think it was such a good job because she was very, very strict, but I value whatever she gave me, and I think my sisters value it too. So, it was a simpler life, much, much simpler. You had your friends, and you had your parents, and you looked up to your teachers because they were another very, very strong grounding focus. Nowadays, what I see is that there are so many different aspects of life that are impinging on the child, right? And not just on the child, on adults, on everybody. I think all of us seem to have lost our way in some way or the other, right? And the emphasis is not on you as a human being, but the emphasis is on how are you viewed outside. Again, because of upward mobility, because yes, while I'm totally for women's rights and strongly that women must have, I mean, a woman and a man, there's no difference between them at all. I brought up my girls like that. And financial independence also, all very, very important. But somehow we have lost the ability to understand that there can be ups and downs and that you work through them, especially when you have children. I believe that very, very strongly. You cannot think of yourself first when you have a child. Be aware of your child's position in this whole thing, and that's where it hurts me when I see children so sad and so unable to cope because the parents are in their anger and their frustration and their huge egos, they are using children as pawns in this whole business, which is absolutely unacceptable.
Right.
Now, when I joined the school, we had one part-time counselor for the entire school, mind you.
Right.
Now, I have a counselor in every section of the school. Every section of the school. And we also, as teachers, we are going again and again for social and emotional intelligence, trying to understand how do we deal with our children, because you can see them. You can see things happening in front of your eyes. The child may not say anything, but you can see how the child's behavior has changed. Grades are dropping, or sometimes very aggressive. Sometimes in their art it comes out, the colors that they are using or the kind of themes that they choose. All these things, and it's a very sad situation.
Correct. The emotional core of the students and how the familial pressures are impacting the child. Do you see any change in the teachers? I mean, you've seen teachers as your colleagues and then as a leader maybe 20 years ago, and the teachers that are coming now. Do you see any difference in their approach to the profession?
Well, to tell you the truth, I think we have been fairly lucky over here in this school, because I do find teachers very giving as they used to be earlier. I mean, I know that even now they stay back after school, they are out there to help the children, and it's a very warm feeling that I get when I see teachers so involved and so, again, committed to what they're doing. And I see them taking a lot of time, even when a child is unhappy, a child has a problem of some kind, they are willing to go that extra mile, And for that, I really am very grateful, because I do see in some cases, it's just okay, I have to deliver a lecture and I do that and I go. That's not that. It's not that at all. And they want to learn. They want to learn because we are living in a totally different scenario right now. Look at the amount of stuff that we can go onto the net, we can find out so many things, the Tata edges all over the place, that sort of thing. And so teachers want to learn, they want, and it's not just learning for their academic growth, but it's also on their professional sense, and for the child. But one thing I want to say is, I think many of our parents, because maybe they have just one or two children, I don't know whether that's a reason or what, and maybe also because they can give more to the child, they kind of bring up their children in a kind of a cotton wool, in a cocoon. I don't know how often they hear the word no. All right, and once I told the parents, I said there's something called tough love also. You need to be able to say, no, you cannot have this now, or maybe a little later, or whatever it is. All right, and if a child falls in whatever way, tell the child that's okay. All of us have setbacks. Get up, try again. So teach them resilience and strength. But that I find not happening. You know, the parents are just rushing to
Protect and support and,
yeah,
you know.
and to take away all the stones and pebbles from the way, you know, the child has a very smooth journey. It's not like that. Life is not like that.
Right.
And I often tell my children, I said, here in school, you're still mollycoddled. You're still, you know, we think about you all the time and say, okay, now how can we help this child, etc., etc. And I said, you step over the threshold of our school. Go on to what life really is. Then you will see what it is. I think these are all the various things that somehow have come together. I know I must be sounding terribly pessimistic.
No.
But
No, I think what I'm sensing is that you epitomize the culture at the Cathedral School, and that culture is tough love. I mean,
it is tough love. It is the ability to accept another human being for what he or she is. The ability to say that there is diversity, which I think is so important. We are all different, and still with all those differences, we can coexist and coexist very happily. Isn't that what our country is all about? I don't understand this kind of discourse that one sees around us nowadays. And I think it's important for our schools to emphasize this. Now, for example, yes, we are, as the Cathedral School, as the name itself suggests, we are from the St. Thomas's Cathedral, all right? It has in its ethos the Christian principles, all right? But Christian principles are not limited in any way. It's ecumenical. And that is why we celebrate all religions. And I'm glad that we have all, I mean, I never ever look at where does this child come from. I want them all there. And we want teachers from various backgrounds, you know, whether it is religious, whether it is economic, whatever it is. Because I think that is what life is all about. Life is not just about one or the other. And I think that's the important thing. Being able to accept each other for what we are and be human about it all.
Just a trigger question, what's the admission policy? How do you decide to get children in?
We get our majority at the lower first level, that is when they are 5 years old. They have to register, of course, and registration is, we still follow this old thing we had of registering when the child was 1 year old.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, but of course, I mean, I know some parents miss it because they say, oh, and then they come and moan and groan and all that. All right, so we can have some late registrations. But we have a fairly large number, and from this year we have only 30 children in a class in the lower first. We've had 38 so far, but I do think in the interest of the children, we need to bring it down. So we have 30 children in a class now in the lower first, and we are hoping that that will work all the way up. Children from our own diocese would get first preference, alumni children, teachers children. So this would be a small cohort, and the rest are from society. But of course, we do have a test. They go through an observation, they go through a testing process, and then according to the merit, we take the children in. So there may be a child who is from one of these categories, but who does not get through what we want as the minimum. The child may not be able to get in. Yeah.
And do you have a neighborhood school policy? Do you get children from?
My neighborhood is only this, no? I mean, and this is basically an office area. But from Malabar Hill, from Kulaba, these are the areas that they come from.
But is there a restriction that children from far away can't come, or do you
in the lower classes? Well, we've gone all the way to Vadala now, because lots of kids from Cuff Parade, etc., their parents have moved over there into Vadala, Sivri, and all those places. So we can't possibly say that, okay, now you move, we are going to throw you out. So we have expanded also. And but usually we don't really take from the far-flung suburbs. In the 11th and 12th we do, because then the kids are quite old enough and grown up to use a bus or the train. So for that, in fact, we've had kids coming in from Powai and all that. But otherwise, no.
Other than that, all kids come in school buses. They're not.
Yes, they come in school buses. They come in school buses, unless of course we don't provide a route.
How do you manage the pressure that you can have from the powers that be to push their children, and recommendation pressure and all that?
Yeah, I know. It can be a little tough, I think in the beginning I used to be just absolutely floored by it, but I just wonder what do I do? But now I've got my methods. I mean, I think you just need to be very, very frank and honest and say, look, these are the children I can put in the class. I don't have any more space. Why would I not take a child? We are in the business of taking children in.
Correct.
I mean, it doesn't make sense that you don't take children,
Right.
but you'd love to take the whole lot. So then, well, if all these people can give me more school buildings, I'll be happy. I've told them, I said, you give me a building, I'll take everybody in.
Right. You've kind of grown with the school, and almost the school rotates its energies around you.
No, that's a very bad thing to say.
No, I think I would say the spiritual energy. Let me put it that way.
Well, I suppose whoever is at the top, some of their ideas and their values percolate.
That's what I
isn't
meant.
it? Yes. So yes, I suppose in that sense, yes.
And how have you kind of planned to pass the baton? I mean, what would you do to kind of ensure that it stays? Because I remember when Sridhar and Venkat went to study institutions that had stayed the course of time, like Oxford and Cambridge, and when we were setting up Eklavya, we went there because our question was that how do you set up a school that did not get limited by its founders or limited by the people who kind of built the institution? Because India had a lot of institutions that kind of slid down when that main person kind of gave up. They're very person-centric institutions, whereas other cultures managed to do more process-centric and more, they managed to bind into the institution values that transcended the person.
Yes, definitely. I would say it is that. It has to transcend. It cannot be personality driven.
Right.
It has to be, you must have heard me emphasizing value based.
Yes, values,
all right.
yes.
So that the value system that we follow,
Right.
I think that has helped to take our school along.
Right.
All right, because I think once you give that up,
Right.
once you allow other artificial, shallow ideas to come creeping in,
Right.
then I think you're really done for. You're really done for. And of course, the fact remains that when you find you find somebody who you feel will be a good fit with the school, then the process starts
Right.
to
groom the
inculcate,
person.
yes, and to groom that person into that. And it's easy enough to see when that person is a good fit
Right.
or when that person is not. And I think again the whole thing comes down to a sense of commitment, a sense of what are you committed to? Look, I'm very proud of this school. I'm very proud of the fact that we have a very rich legacy and heritage, and it would be anathema to let that slip. And I'm not saying that we have to hang on to the old just because it's
Yes,
old.
yeah.
I think we need to change, because if you don't change, then you're fossilized and that's the end of the story. You become a dinosaur.
Right.
It has to change, but at the same time, the usual thing, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so much of richness in the heritage of the school, but it's not in the building.
Yes,
Part of it is in the
part of
building,
it is in the building, yes.
But it's more in the hearts and the souls of the people
yes.
who make this building a
And
school.
you do find the children, they have this strong sense of loyalty
Yes.
of when even they come back, what the school meant to them. I think that is there, and teachers also. We even though we may have left a long time ago, I have so many people who come back. Just want to roam around and have a look at the school and.
You have
check
a very
what's happening.
strong old boys network.
Yes, we have a
It's
fantastic
very rare
alumni.
for a school to have it. I mean,
Yeah.
I am has it, and engineering colleges have it, but I've never seen a school kind of emphasize it so much.
They haven't, and what can I say? It's like a large net, that is spread. And if they only have to say that, I am from Cathedral, whichever batch, and they're taken care of wherever they are.
Yeah.
So, and the children know that, they know that, and our alumni are wonderful people. Actually, I think it's, as I was telling you, it's a team effort.
Yeah.
Everybody together. We have our board members who know exactly what it is that they're looking for. Again, the same thing. Hold on to the traditions that are so rich and so varied, but continue with the change and bring that in, and that's what we are doing over here. That is why now, instead of the of sticking only to the national curricula. We've got the IB and we've got the IGCSE, and of course all our headmistresses, our teachers, our children themselves, because I think they are the most important people in the school, and our alumni and our parents. I mean, you won't. I know many schools say they try and keep the parents out. Yeah, there are some parents whom I would like to keep out. There is no question, but our PTA is fantastic. We have such a superb PTA.
Right.
It really is, I'm not just saying it because maybe they'll hear me on this thing, but but they really are. Right. They help us in so many ways, you can't even count them.
Right.
Yeah, they are really wonderful. And many of them are ex-students.
Right. Is age just a number for you?
Age.
Your
age. Oh no, listen, I'm getting fed up. I want to get out of this place. Yeah.
Because you're defying, I mean, I've seen you for the past 15 years, 18 years. You've been just the same energy, the same drive, the same passion. And I kind of get inspired when I meet you. I said, how does she
You're very good for me. You should come more often.
How do you do it? I mean, it's very, very energizing to be in your presence.
Maybe I just talk too much. I really think so.
No, that's not true. That is not true.
Well, as I told you, if you like something, if you love something enough, then that gives you a sort of a spark. It gives you enough of a push.
And what's waiting for you on the other side?
I think just a lot of travel. I would like to travel.
Right.
And I have 2 grandchildren.
Right.
And I think I'm missing out on their growing up.
Right.
I would love to be with them for a little while, because after a little while, I know, because being in a school all these years, I know up to say about 10, 12, you're a very treasured person in their lives, and after that they don't want to see you at all. All that is there, so I'm looking at that, and I enjoy reading, and
you write also?
I write a little.
I read your articles in the papers.
These sort of things, will keep me engaged, and frankly, I just want to be with my sisters. We've all been in different parts of the country. That sort of thing, a little more family oriented. And I also want, that's something I've been thinking about. I would like to set up something for the girl child.
Okay.
Because I think it's very important that we empower our girl children.
When your children were growing up, when your daughters were growing up, did they see a mother or principal at home? What was it like?
Mother. Yes.
Mother.
But of course, they used to be quite cross with me sometimes. Not principal, I was never principal with them, thank God. I was teacher with them,
Okay.
And both my daughters are very different. The first one was absolutely chilled out. I could teach her in school, she had no problem. I taught her in 11 and 12, English and psychology, and she was very happy about it. The second one absolutely said, no, you are not teaching me. So we had, English was always taken at the same time.
Right.
So I had to make a special request to our vice principal at that time and say, look, can she please move to this other class when I'm in teaching English here? She refused.
Right.
So, they are very, very different. Yeah, definitely mother, but I think a pretty strict mother. Because, we still talk a lot. We have a very easy relationship. But as you see, even now, she just has to give us that look of hers. And we know that we are stepping out of line.
Yeah. And do you manage to switch off when you're out?
Sometimes, sometimes I think I carry this with me.
Yeah.
But it's not
because
nice.
You live it so much. I mean, you're breathing and living this.
But it's not a nice idea.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not a nice idea. So, for example, when I go for my walk, I never ever take my phone with me.
Right.
And even now, most of the time I switch it off here.
Right.
So people say, we can't get through to you. And I said, maybe there's a reason, I don't want to talk to all of you. Yeah, but yes, I do try. I do that I enjoy reading a lot.
Right.
So, but I don't get very much time outside this,
Because this must be like...
This is quite
a handful.
Yeah, quite a handful. And especially when you're trying to get new things. For example, I didn't realize that just buying a new school building would take so much out of me.
Yeah.
And having to deal with the BMC and the this and the that, just getting stuff together. It's worthwhile.
Yeah,
it's very worthwhile.
Any message for young leaders who are kind of going to sit on that chair in the next maybe a year or so? Like, what would be your nuggets of wisdom for them?
and just say, be true to yourself. That's all you really need to be. Because if you are true to yourself, you are true to your calling, it will follow. All the right things will follow. All right? A certain amount of hard work, definitely. You need to know what's happening in the world right now. You need to understand that, but don't give up on yourself as a human being first. That I would say is the most important thing.
Some people use religion and some people use faith to center themselves when there are these dilemmas, and I'm sure you had your dilemmas or some questions where you were asked to choose. And so how do you ensure that you're walking the right path? Some people say, yeah, we're hearing that be true to ourselves, but when that when that moment comes when you have to take a call, and then what do you fall back upon, or how do you
I don't think I'm a particularly religious person.
Okay.
But I have been brought up by a very religious mother. And she was very strong in the values that she passed on to us.
Okay.
All right. I don't know, I've never thought about it. It's just that all of us know what is right and wrong, isn't it? And if you've been brought up in that way, you will do the right thing. I think so. I may do, in other people's eyes it may be wrong. But if I know that my conscience is clear, then I stick by that.
Even though it means it's more work and it's more pressure, it's more your...
Oh yes, I've had some pretty rough times where, but again, I've had so much support, so much support from everyone whom I meet. And I have tremendous support from my family. My daughters think that I'm something great. And she's my daughter keeps saying, you should run for Prime Minister. Are you mad?
I would vote for you.
So my daughter and you would be the two who would vote for me. But see, because she says, it is difficult, but I think if you know what is right, you just follow what is right. And that's the end of the story.
But somehow the backbone of strength, of that conviction is getting weaker, but I see you having a very strong backbone. And
because my dear Sudhir, I'm so old.
That's not true.
I'm still of the old school, No, but I see lots of very, very, very strong youngsters nowadays. Even my children who come to talk to me sometimes once in a while, and even in the school, there are some superb, sterling kids, sterling, absolutely, and they're so young. They're 15, 16. They're in a different world altogether. Not the world that I grew up in. But they're able to navigate themselves through it and come through trumps. There's no question about it. Everyone knows what is right and wrong. Everyone. Right?
But this whole tendency to cut corners is getting a bit more rampant.
Yes, it is. It's definitely much more rampant.
Plagiarism was something unheard of. Now it's so easy to take something off the net and say it's yours. And
that is true. But what great research did we do? I'm just telling you very honestly. You went to the library and you copied this and you copied that and you copied the other, and nobody ever called us plagiarism. But now we are becoming more aware of the fact that this is not done, and that is really, I think, because of the international boards that have been coming in, and putting the foot down about that, which is a very good thing. It's a very good thing.
Forces you for your original thinking.
Original. So and therefore, the whole way we look at life, the whole way we look at education, the creativity, the collaborative work, and highly competitive also. All right. So it's important for us to emphasize this creativity and collaboration and the skill sets that you need to have. But don't compete all the time. I see a lot of that happening. Yeah.
A lot of school leaders are kind of facing this fee regulation, bugbear. Any thoughts on that?
You mean, is the government interfering?
Yeah. And what will it impact quality? Will it make schools kind of dumb down and cut budgets?
Well, yes, if we have to do that sort of thing, if there are regulations that make us say that you just can't increase the fees. Look, the entire school runs on the fees of the children.
Sure.
So yeah, it will definitely impact, because if you have to get all this technology in, which is very important. If you're going to have all the new age stuff that you need in a school, it all costs money. And if you need good teachers, you need to pay them well.
Right.
And whatever the infrastructure, whatever it is. So you do need money for all these things, there's no question about it. Fortunately, at the moment, if I were to talk about ourselves, we haven't had interference from the government per se, for the simple reason that we are a minority school
institution.
and unaided.
Unaided minority.
And also I suppose also the strata that comes here, no? So we haven't had really. But having said that, I mean, I think our fee structure, it goes up maybe once every, the fees go up once every 2 to 3 years. Yes, about 10%, something like that. But then but at the same time, we are revising all our teachers' salaries.
Salaries every year.
Yeah.
And thoughts about no detention as a policy, because I don't know.
I don't particularly like this idea of detaining children for no rhyme or reason.
Right.
Again, because I don't believe that a child has to be, very good in everything. I think that children have to be given a certain sense of freedom to choose, and I see it happening more and more and more. They could be good in their academics, they could be good in their sports, they could be good in just say maybe trekking. I mean, just look at the career options that are available these days. So how can we fail them? No.
Yeah, in a way.
What really worries me really is the behavior problems that we have sometimes with children. But when you have a child constantly, say from the 4th standard to the 8th standard, we've had the same problems. We keep pushing the child up. We keep, having the counselors in, we get everybody in, and then if a child still cannot accept the rules and the norms of the school and are bullying other children, because everybody has a right. It's not only one child who has a right. Then I would definitely we call the parents in. It's an ongoing process. And we call the parents and say, look, this child is obviously not suited to us, I think you should leave. But just because a child may fail, I don't think it is necessary to keep a child down. Give a child a little extra help.
Right.
And now I think even boards are a little more accommodating. Like you can drop math, because math is always a bugbear for many children. That's why we got ASSET in the first place, helping to help them. Science is another area where the children, though I do feel that maths and science they should have till standard 10. That was my philosophy, because I did senior Cambridge, and these were certainly not my strong subjects. So I happily got out of them, and I realized how much I've lost out. So I did say, everybody should have at least that basic up to standard 10. But I know many children don't want it, and they find it very, very difficult. So there's no point in pushing that down their throats. So up to standard 8, in any case, we don't detain children. But if a child has a real problem in standard 8, then but it's always with the thing of the parents,
Something about EI, how has MindSpark kind of over the years integrated itself with the school? And
I think it's done a pretty good job, especially with standards 3 and 4. That's why we've been happy to have them. As I told you, I found the children always were afraid of maths. And I think it's not, I think it's a kind of an inculcation in the child's head, and also the maths teaching has to be of a particular standard and caliber. To make it more concept based, so that the child understands why they are doing this. Exactly. I found the ASSET a good tool, and also the MindSpark, because they, at their own time and leisure, they could go back and understand where they had lost out, and with parents at home to help out, Then, because in the 3rd and 4th we still have 38 in a class, so you do need that extra thing for the children.
And what would be your recommendation for what EI should focus on in the next, say, 3 to 5 years? What would be your wish list, if I could ask?
As I was telling you, maybe the environment, very important. Science and technology, definitely.
STEM, you were talking about
STEM. Weather conditions, and how the world, the globalization really, how the world is really one, and what we can take away from each other. I think all those things are very, very important.
You also talked about geography. I mean,
geography
is playing a very critical role.
Absolutely.
And the career options that would never
have come up earlier. Yes.
I mean, climatologists and people who are predicting hurricanes. I mean, they are
absolutely. And entrepreneurship. How does a child, maybe not tremendously great in academics, not terribly sports inclined, what can that kid do? Or else, so take that one thing that the child has, that that spark in, that ability, and help him to grow.
Right.
And in any case, the way the world is going now is nobody stays in a job for a mighty long time.
True.
They are moving, zigzagging right across, or changing altogether.
Right.
So I think we need to give children that ability, adaptability, ability to see where are we going. And of course, artificial intelligence is becoming so big these days.
Right. Who was the person you looked up to and who mentored you?
My mother. My mother, oh God, she was dreadful. But I think she was very strict, very, very strict. We used to say that she's absolutely Queen Victoria. But what she did for us, I honestly believe it. See, now I'm talking with hindsight.
Right.
At that particular time, I can tell you and many times couldn't understand what was going on. She had a tough time looking after the three of us and seeing that we got through school and put us into college and etc., whatever was right for that day and age, and and I really thank her for giving me the kind of value system I have.
Absolutely.
I think that is very important.
I think the juxtaposition of, I would say, compassion, love, and respect that you have at one end, and this very clear, crisp, hard, brutal side to you. So, is this one person? Are there two people?
I suppose we are all Jekylls and Hydes at the end of the whole show, isn't it? Yeah, you have to. If I was sitting around acting very sweet and wonderful with these children, they'd walk all over my head.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have to have a tough exterior. Yeah. But yeah, we are there for the children. There's no question about that. We are there for the children. We are there for each other. Yeah. Really there for each other.
If you had to put all of it into 2 words, what would these 2 words be for you? I mean, they would describe you best.
Oh, describe me?
Yeah.
Frankly, I think I'm a rather nice person. But I don't see. Yeah, I am tough. There is no doubt about it. Yeah, I am. How would I?
Tough,
I don't
committed.
even know. Yes, I am. I am committed. Yes, I am. Yeah, maybe a very tough and very committed person. Yes, maybe you could put it that way. I don't know. Yeah. When I say tough, we talk about tough love.
Yeah.
That I would think that kind of epitomizes. Yeah.
As always, a conversation with you is fabulous. I think it's really woken up a lot in me and revived, my own focus on the ethics and the honesty and the principles we have lived by as EI. I think we find a very strong resonance with school leaders like you, and especially you. And it's been absolutely a treasure and a pleasure to have known you and to have been somebody that I could say I knew Mrs. Isaac. So
thank you so much. That's really kind of you. Huh? That's really very sweet of you. And I suppose I could return the compliment. That's really, because I think what you said is so true. That's exactly what it has to be.
Yeah, we've lived by our principles as a company, and we've done good. I think we've done good. So, and it's happy that we can sit and have a conversation with our partners like you. That where have we come, and what's the journey ahead. So it's gratifying to be sitting with you today.
Thank you, Sudhir. Thank you so much. It's very nice.
Just a small gift for you.
It certainly doesn't look small. Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. Thank you. Thank you. Hope you will like it.